around 12:30 Sunday afternoon.
Excuse the interruption. Right now, state and local officials are holding a press conference to announce their investigation and audit of the town of Hempstead building department. Let's listen in.
Town officials, and it was put forward with the goal of helping our building department correct its deficiencies and restore faith among many homeowners and small businesses throughout the town of Hempstead who see the department as a foe instead of a friend. Unfortunately, the proposed audit was defeated by the town board Republican majority. I have been trying to get this audit done for over a year and a half now. I put forward an RFP at the beginning of my term in 2018 to bring in an auditor to address the severe problems that we have in our building department, which are highlighted by the crisis caused by this substantial damage letters and the PDAs that were conducted after Superstorm Sandy. But at every turn, I have been met with obstruction, constant obstruction, excuses about why this audit could not go forward. It begs the question, what is the Republican majority worried about? What don't they want you and me to see? What are they hiding? As a result of mounting concerns and reported issues, Senator Brooks and I had no choice but to call on the state Senate's investigation committee and the New York Department of State to come on in and take a look. My office has begun the process of forwarding numerous and disturbing complaints from residents and even town employees regarding practices of the town's building department. These allegations include delaying the issuance of select building permits, disregarding or looking the other way on certain code violations, and selectively expediting permits for favored homeowners or favored businesses. That's not acceptable, and it's not safe. This is, of course, in addition to the fact that thousands of homeowners in the town were never notified that there were PDAs done on their home after Sandy and that they could be living in potentially substantially damaged homes that require elevation. Now, homeowners, some of whom purchased homes after Sandy, are faced with flood insurance bills that are about to skyrocket and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket to elevate their homes in order to bring them back into compliance with state, local, and federal regulations. The continued inaction on behalf of the building department, despite my multiple directives, proactively alert homeowners that still have no clue if they are living in a substantially damaged home, has left us no other choice but to hand this department over to the state. My office has proactively reached out to every homeowner in the town of Hempstead in their flood zone to alert them that they have the right to see how their home's damage was assessed after Superstorm Sandy. I have done this without the support of the building department or the town board, but this will not fully fix the problem. Upon completion of the State Department's assessment, an independent state monitor may even be appointed to oversee the daily operations of the town's building department and to make sure that we are in full compliance. To talk more about the state's action, I now invite Senator John Brooks to say a few words.
Thank you, Supervisor, and good morning. We'll kind of let this speech sit aside. I think we're in a situation here, as the Supervisor said, there's been a long debate going on with regards to Hurricane Sandy, a storm that took place a long time ago. We're in a situation right now. I'm receiving complaints on a regular basis. People are going to try to get their certificate of occupancy so they can finalize the claim, and they're being told they can't proceed because the house has to be elevated. We've got a real concern with the fact that many, many people were not given information on the status of their home. People are finding out now that their home has to be elevated. What's going to happen here, the state's going to come in and take a look at the operation, make some evaluations of what they see and some recommendations. We're going to get a picture of where the town really is with regards to these homes and the condition they're in and the repairs that have to be made. We're going to look at how this process was handled. The next Sandy is out there. When it's going to come, we don't know. But we've got to review what's being done and make the changes that are necessary. But more importantly, there are so many people right now that have done what they felt was right in repairing their home to now be notified, no, that's not right. You have to do this or you have to do that. Some of the assistance programs that they could have applied for are gone. In some cases, people are being asked to return significant amounts of money to the various agencies that lended these funds. At the end of the day, for every family, perhaps the biggest investment they ever make is a home. For many of our homeowners in this county that bought homes years ago and didn't have pension plans, their pension or their retirement is based on the equity they have in the house. And when you find out that you're suddenly being asked to return hundreds of thousands of dollars in funding because you didn't complete a process that wasn't explained to you or was unknown to you, it's a problem. So after the first press conference and the debate and discussion that was going on in terms of the audit, we did make a request.
Nice.
There we go. It was a good play, right?
I have Angelina Jolie's skills from Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Very good with that.
So we did reach out to the Senate Investigations and Governmental Operations Committee and asked that they look into the town of Hempstead. They've agreed and made the referral to the Department of State. We're in a situation where this is not a political look-see. This is a look-see of a people that understand government and the responsibilities. We're going to get their impression of what's been happening here, and then we're going to address the problems that are identified going forward. It is troubling to talk to someone who has done everything they think they have to do to get their home repaired, and then they come into the office and they say, they're telling me they can't give me the CO because I didn't do this or I didn't do that, but I didn't know about that. They never told me. So we have to get this addressed. I have to give all credit to the supervisor. The storm happened long before she came into office. She inherited this problem, and she's been working hard to get it resolved, not with a lot of assistance locally. This is a problem. Government's job is to work for the people. You know, when they laid out the plans, when Hurricane Sandy struck, the federal government and the state went out of their way to set up programs to help people recover from those storms. But you know the old saying that a plan is only as good as your weakest link. And from the appearances of things right now, the town of Hempstead Building Department is the weakest link in what's been happening with this storm recovery. So we need to have a good, solid review made, get the report, see what changes we have to make, and address what problems are discovered as part of this audit. So again, I compliment the supervisor for her efforts. To the homeowners of this town, we are working hard to get this matter resolved. And unfortunately, almost every other day, a new homeowner is coming through the door with an issue. So we need to get this addressed. So we have made the request for the Department of State to come in. They'll make a review. One of the great things we're doing right now in the State Senate is this new committee is looking at a number of governments across the state to make operational reviews. And the town of Hempstead certainly, with regards to this storm, is something that should be looked at. And the town of Hempstead, Long Island, we're right out there in that ocean. The next storm is out there. So we've got to get this done and make the changes needed and address the problems that are identified. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Sure. Good morning. My name's Alan Kinnemer. I'm here to represent the Long Island Builders Institute. I am also a resident of the town of Hempstead. So over a month ago, we had a press conference. We had a town board meeting to try to bring in a third party, as everyone spoke of, to address the building department. That was all shot down. It didn't go through. As we talked about in the past, that development is the economic driver of a town. We need to specify what the rules and regulations are to get a permit, to get an inspection, whether it's a developer, whether it's a handyman, whether it's a homeowner. There's no straightforward path for anybody to succeed, which is now discouraging a lot of our developers and builders from coming to the town of Hempstead. Sorry. We were really hoping for the investigation of the third party to come through so we can really dig in and find out exactly what's going on with our building department and make those processes better. We're not necessarily blaming anyone. We want to look to improve what we have now. We want to applaud the supervisor and Senator Brooks for stepping forward and really taking this, running with it, and hopefully we'll be able to pull this through and help all of the developers, and not to mention the homeowners of the town of Hempstead. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Insinger. I'm the executive director of Adopt a House. We are a nonprofit that's been dealing with Sandy issues since the very beginning. I want to also thank Supervisor Gilling and Senator John Brooks, because we've known this problem existed for almost 7 years. We've had advocates that have been on our board and network and our committees that knew this problem existed over 5 years ago when it was admitted in an actual civic meeting. We knew that these PDAs existed and no one wanted to speak of it. No one would listen to us as we told them that this was going to be a huge problem. Fast forward, here we stand today. Fast forward, we've had other houses that were actually sold to people that were not involved with Sandy, only to find out that their house has to be elevated with funds they could never get. We had people that actually had New York Rising cases where they were offered optional elevation, however they didn't take it. Meanwhile, now they lost those funds. The reason that we actually brought this to Supervisor Gillen and Senator Brooks is because we were hoping finally there were people that would actually take this seriously. Finally there is. We brought this to the town meeting, the town council, more than one time in private meetings with them, even suggesting how to do an appeals process to eliminate those who were not truly substantially damaged, so we can figure out who really was, and hopefully we can get other funding since we lost it when New York Rising closed in April of 2014. The point is, this needs to be done. It cannot be ignored. We also warned for years that FEMA was going to change their process in the NFIP, and no sooner did we say that, a few years did go by, here we have FEMA's Risk 2.0, so that we will also correct in. So as advocates, we are asking that this finally happen so that we can get stuff done for people in our community that really need to be FEMA compliant, so that we don't wind up with much bigger problems as FEMA goes forward next year with their Risk 2.0. So the point is, we are very grateful that this is happening, and we're very happy to see that we do have some officials that are actually behind us. We had cases where a family, and this is more than one because we've had these complaints about the building department on our social media pages. We run 5 of them for years. This is how we knew this was actually happening, by talking to our own homeowners that we advocate for and are part of our organization. So again, we are very concerned that this needs to actually be done, and we can finally put this to bed, hopefully get some kind of funding to help those who are truly substantially damaged, and they can become more FEMA compliant, and that we don't take a risk that NFIP drops the town of Hempstead or any other Long Island town from the NFIP program as they change it. NFIP will not be the same thing that everyone's used to in Long Island since 1979. It's changing drastically, and we need to actually get these homes compliant as soon as possible. But this can't be done until we actually address this, do a true appeals process, eliminate those who are not truly substantially damaged, and take care of the ones that are. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So the goal of my administration has always been to be transparent and to improve things that were broken. I've received so many complaints about delays and problems with the building department even before I learned of this Sandy issue. And the goal of the operational audit was to improve our building department, to make it better for our residents and our local businesses. That's a goal that everyone on the town council should share. It's no doubt that having an auditor come in and give us suggestions on how we can streamline efficiencies, how we can improve our operations, would have been a great thing for the residents, and how we can make sure that the disaster that happened under Kate Murray's administration with this building department after Superstorm Sandy never ever happens again. We never want our residents to be placed in the situation that these residents were placed in after Sandy again. We need protocols. We need to make sure that this doesn't happen. We were resisted by the town council. However, I thank Senator Brooks for his advocacy on behalf of the residents of the town of Hempstead to bring in the state to do the audit that we need to make sure these problems do not happen again, and to make sure that we provide the best building department we can for our residents. So thank you, Senator Brooks. This is just the beginning of this story. We will continue to push forward until there is real change in our building department. I'll take any questions.
Has the Department of State agreed to conduct this audit or investigation?
The committee in the report, and I think you were given a copy of the report. They don't. There is a copy of the report. You'll get it in a minute. They are strongly urging the state to come in. They don't have the ability to dictate, but they recognize how big an exposure this is. The literally thousands of homes that were damaged. We're 7 years after that storm, and we still have questions and discovering problems throughout the system.
So it's not certain yet that the Department of State
It is strongly urged that they do that. They don't have the ability to demand it. It's strongly urged. I think with the information they've provided, I believe they will be in there very shortly.
What's the difference between a State Department audit investigation and a state controller's audit?
A state controller's audit would be strictly a financial type review. What we're looking at here is an operational review, how this is done. You know, again, you've got a situation. The town of Hempstead is the largest town in the United States of America. We got hit with one of the strongest hurricanes ever. The state and the federal government put programs in place to address the needs of the people, how their homes can be restored, how they can be funded. But the town of Hempstead Building Department didn't process the requests, the information properly, presenting significant problems. We don't know right now how many homes are out there that have to be raised. People aren't aware of that. So in doing this audit, we're going to get some of that information, but more importantly, they're going to get a roadmap on how to do things going forward, and that is critically important.
All these other issues besides the elevation issue, like selectively delaying building permits, selectively expediting certain, favoritism, is that all Sandy related, or are you saying that's happened?
In addition to Sandy related materials. And just to clarify, so the state investigation and the audit that we're looking for is from the State Department. The Controller's Office is doing a separate, complete fiscal audit of the town of Hempstead. That's something separate than what's going on, and that's already happening right now.
Okay, and so what is this pattern of favoritism within the building department?
There are all kinds of allegations about that. That's something that we want to look into.
And with the Department of State, first of all, is it an audit, an investigation, or is it both?
It is a review, an operational review. As they go through the review, they will determine if they want to expand it to other areas, if they want to put a monitor into the department. So it'll start as a look-see, and what's discovered, it will direct where they go from there.
Is the scope of it at first specifically this issue with Sandy homeowners, or is it the entire building department operations?
The problem we're initially presenting to them is how they responded to Sandy and the aftermath of Sandy. As they go through that process, that may open up other doors. They have the right to go through the entire department. The initial point is going to be what happened with the Sandy situation, but that's going to give them insight in how the department operates and what has to be looked at beyond that.
Do you have a time frame on how this
They just got the report, and in the report, the report is fairly long. There are several areas in the state that have been pointed out, so I can't set a time frame, but we're going to ask that it be done as soon as possible, because those storms are out there for tomorrow, and the people that were hurt in this storm right now, they're not back in their homes yet, many of them, and they have significant financial obligations, so it needs to be addressed as soon as possible.
At this point, the town, the buildings department, the buildings commissioner still blames residents at the time for not coming forward and seeking help or, knowing the rules.
Well, I think this audit is going to really tell us what did happen.
I have to speak to that because I'm supervisor of the town of Hempstead, and I would like to make it very clear that the commissioner does not speak for my office. In no way do we blame the residents. We blame the building department for not notifying residents after Sandy that these PDAs were performed on their home. It's grossly irresponsible. They were left in a filing cabinet to rot instead of communicating with residents and trying to help them rebuild after Sandy.
Do we really want to blame disaster victims at the worst point of their life when being part of NFIP, that is your town's obligation to tell them? So do we really want to blame a disaster victim?
And Supervisor, just give us any more detail as to why you're alleging this favoritism within the buildings department? Like, what's the history of complaints about that?
We have just gotten in a bunch of complaints that, and I think Senator Brooks, you've received complaints that some people their permits seem to move a lot faster than other people's permits. So really what we're looking to do is what we were trying to do with our operational audit that was going to be performed by Ernst & Young is to create protocols so we can ensure residents know this is the procedure that we follow with respect to complaints. Now, there may be circumstances that warrant a certain permit being expedited, but we wanted independent outside people to say, well, in these circumstances, permits should be expedited because of these trying conditions that need to be addressed immediately. It's an emergency or something like that. So therefore, the building department officials will have a guide as to how they should act, when they should act, divergent from what the standard procedure is. And this way they can ensure residents can feel like, well, we're being treated fairly because maybe my neighbor got a permit faster than me, but it was because these conditions applied, whereas those conditions were not applicable to my situation. So really what my goal has always been is to just create a protocol of best practices in our building department with a roadmap onto how we can get a more efficient building department to make it better to do business with the town and better to rebuild in the town of Hempstead.
And are there any new plans for state or federal help to help residents who are now finding out they need help?
We are working on that right now. We're exploring options on that. We hope to have more concrete information for you soon, but it's a work in progress. It's certainly something that has been important for us to provide some relief to these residents who are still dealing with the aftermath of Sandy.
When we first covered the story, there was no appeals process in place. Is there now an appeals process?
There is not, but it's something that we're working on.
What about helping the people that are still not home from Sandy, extending some of these programs that have already been cut or will be cut?
So if it's in terms of FEMA money, we don't, as a township, we don't have the ability to do that, but we are trying to work with our federal elected representatives. We're working closely with Kathleen Rice's office to try to address this situation. Anybody else? All right, thank you, everybody.